Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. I hope you're having an amazing day. It is Monday, June 30th, 2014. Can't believe this is the last day of June. And we're going to read Enoch Chapter 73 through 75. 73. And after this law, I saw another law dealing with the smaller luminary, which is named the moon. And her circumference is like the circumference of the heaven, and her chariot in which she rides is driven by the wind, and light is given to her in definite measures. And her rising and setting changes every month, and her days are like the days of the sun. And when her light is uniform, full, it amounts to the 7th part of the light of the sun. And thus she rises, and her first phase in the east comes forth on the 30th morning, and on that day she becomes visible, and constitutes for you the first phase of the moon on the 30th day together with the sun in the portals where the sun rises. And the one half of her goes forth by a seventh part of her whole circumference, and her whole circumference is empty, without light, with the exception of 1/7 part of it, and the 14th part of her light. And when she receives 1/7 part of the half of her light amounts to 1/7 part and the half thereof. And she sets with the sun, and when the sun rises, the moon rises with him, and receives the half of the one part of light. And in the night, in the beginning of her morning, and the commencement of the lunar day, the moon sets with the sun, and is visible the night with the 14th part and the half of one of them. And she rises on that day with exactly a 7th part, and comes forth and recedes from the rising of the sun. And in her remaining days she becomes bright in the remaining 13 parts. Chapter 74. And I saw another course, a law for her, and how according to that law she performed her monthly revolution. And all these things Uriel, the holy angel, who is the leader of them all, showed to me and their position, and I wrote down their position as he showed them to me. And I wrote down their months as they were, and the appearance of the light till the 15th day were accomplished. In single 7th parts she accomplished all her lights in the east, and in the single 7th parts accomplished all her darkness in the west. And in certain months she altered her settings, and in certain months she pursues her own peculiar view. In 2 months the moon sets with the sun in those 2 middle portals, the 3rd and the 4th. She goes forth for 7 days, and turns about and returns again through the portal where the sun rises, and accomplishes all her light. And she recedes from the sun, and in 8 days enters the 6th portal from which the sun goes forth. And when the sun goes forth from the 4th portal, she goes forth 7 days, until she goes forth from the 5th, and turns back again in 7 days into the 4th portal, and accomplishes all her light. And she recedes and enters into the 1st portal in 8 days. And she returns again in 7 days into the 4th portal from which the sun goes forth. Thus I saw her position, how the moon rose and the sun set in those days. And if 5 years were added together, the sun was an overplus of 30 days, and all the days which accrue to it for one of those 5 years, when they are all full, amount to 364 days. And the overplus of the sun and of the stars amount to 6 days in 5 years. 6 days every year comes to 30 days. And the moon falls behind the sun and stars to the number of 30 days. And the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly, so that they do not advance or delay in their position by a single day unto eternity, but complete the years with perfection with perfect justice, and 364 days. In 3 years there are 1,092 days, and in 5 years 1,820 days, so that in 8 years there are 2,912 days. For the moon alone, the days amount in 3 years to 1,062 days, and in 5 years she falls 50 days behind, i.e., to the sun of 1,770. There is to be added 1,062 days, and in 5 years there are 1,770 days, so that for the moon the days in 8 years amount to 2,832 days. For in 8 years she falls behind to the amount of 80 days. All the days she falls behind in 8 years are 80. And the year is accurately complete in conformity with their world stations and the stations of the sun, which rise from the portals through which the sun, rises and sets 30 days. Chapter 75. And the leader of the heads of the thousands, who are placed over the whole creation and all I keep little tiny words I just skip over. And over all the stars, have also to do with the 4 intercalvary days, being inseparable from their office, according to the reckoning of the year, and the render service of the 4 days, which are not reckoning in the reckoning of the year. And owning to them men go wrong therein. For those luminaries truly render service on the world station, one in the first portal, one in the third portal of the heaven, one in the fourth portal, and one in the sixth portal. And the exactness of the year is accomplished through its separate 364 stations. For the signs and the time of the year and the days, the angel Uriel showed to me, whom the Lord of glory hath set for over all the luminaries of the heaven and in the world, that they should rule on the face of the heaven, and be seen on earth, and be leader for the day and the night, i.e., the sun, the moon, and the stars, and all the ministering creatures which make the revolution, and all the chariots of the heaven. In like manner 12 doors Uriel showed me, open in the circumference of the sun's chariots in the heaven, through which the rays of the sun break forth, and from them is warmth diffused over the earth, when they are opened at their appointed season. And for the winds, and the spirit of the dew, when they are open, standing open in the heavens at the end. As for the 12 portals in the heaven at the end of the earth, out of which go forth the sun, moon, and stars, and all the works of heaven in the east and west, there are many windows open to the left and the right of them, and one window at its appointed season produce warmth, corresponding as these do to those doors from which the stars come forth, according as he has commanded them, and wherein they set corresponding to their number. And I saw chariots in heaven running in the world, above those portals, in which resolve the stars to never set. And the last verse for today, verse 9. And one is larger than all the rest, and it is that makes its course through the entire world. So yesterday we learned about the moon and her travels. And yesterday we learned about the sun and his travels. And today we're learning about the moon and her travels. I'm finding it interesting because you just think, I used to just think that it was just that's how it went, never knowing that was all designed certain ways. And it's pretty interesting. Peace be in you, my brothers and sisters. May the Lord have mercy on us all. I love you guys so very much. God bless.